Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I'm going to get into the Q&A in just a second, but in case you haven't noticed, I do have one announcement. There is a video that actually came out before this Monday. Yeah, it's rare that I actually do that, but it's me playing over 4 hours of Clair Obscur Expedition 33, probably my most anticipated RPG of the year, and that was before I got to play it. Yeah, they gave me access to a demo build, and while I am going to be streaming it as of you're watching this video, I'm probably streaming it right now as well, depending on how close to the release time for this video you're actually watching. There was no way I was waiting until after the embargo to stream it and play. I did a playthrough, put it up on YouTube before this, and man, go watch it. But let me just say, like I said, it was already one of my most anticipated RPGs for the year before I played the demo. Now I've played the demo. It's definitely my most anticipated. Yeah, go watch it. And I'll probably do like a standalone video, like just like a 15-20 minute review video of what I got to play as well, or I guess a first impressions of what I got to play. But listen, I wish I could still be, I wish I could just play the whole game right now. It's not that much longer of a wait, April 24th, but like, I want to play it right now. And that's pretty impressive given Monster Hunter Wilds just came out. So let's get on to the Q&A, because talking about it too much is going to make me sad that I don't have more to play, unless I just want to go play it again and again and again and again until the time comes. But yeah, don't forget, I've been forgetting to do this before I actually answer the Q&A. Don't forget to ask questions in the comment section below. People keep asking me where to ask comments. That is the place to do it. Just scroll down, type a comment, use the hashtag so it's easier to notice. Sometimes I notice them even without it, but make sure you say hello while you're at it. And that's where you go. Also, shout out to Steel Series. Don't forget, they sponsor all my content. So I actually want to do some standalone Steel Series stuff, just to throw in some of my own videos, just to, treat them with the respect, because they've been with me for years and years and years, and honestly, it's awesome. So be sure to go support them if you ever need any sort of gaming hardware related stuff. I got a discount code, works year round and everything. So with that, let's get on to the Q&A. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. All right, everyone. In honor of that one guy, we're asking only non-14. I wasn't planning on perpetuating this, but I guess I should have expected at least this comment section was probably going to have some things to say about last week's intro. Hello, Happy. I was actually really worried that you were not going to say hello. And this is the first question, hilariously enough, so it kind of worked out that you're doing this. What do you think of those automatic cat litter? No, I will never use. And that's honestly, even besides the horror stories of some of the automatic cat litter boxes that have been sold on the market, I am someone who likes to do everything myself, kind of. It's one reason why I don't have an editor. Other reason I don't have an editor is, quite frankly, the amount of work an editor has to do and the amount that they should be paid, I just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't just want to get an editor to effectively, like, do, like, the bare minimum. If I'm going to get an editor, I want the editor to, be able to actually use their skills in some meaningful capacity. But, even when it comes to stuff like washing the dishes, I'll often, instead of using the dishwasher, I'll do it myself, because I can, like, really make sure it cleans. Have you ever, like, open your dishwasher, if you have one, and it's still dirty? Like there's something that, like, just didn't come off. Yeah, that bugs me. So I end up just kind of pre-washing the dishes practically. So for the litter box, I get the scoop and I do it myself. But on top of that, the things on the internet where the cats have died because of, like, the safety precautions on them not... Honestly, that's like, I usually don't let things I see on the internet, like, influence me like that, but just even knowing it's happened, that's enough for me to never get an electronic litter box. I don't need that level of convenience when I can take care of my, it's just me and the cat. It's not like I have a whole family to deal with, even if I did. The cat's family. So I'm taking care of that myself. My eyes are so dry today. I don't know why. Air must be dry or something. Or I'm just tired. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps and Cats. Hi. Thanks, you heard me speak in her direction. I've been in the mood to play some turn-based games recently. You should check out Clair Obscur 30. I hope they release that demo to the public. I almost want... So I'm recording this before the embargo is up, but obviously, like, afterwards, like, this is being released after the embargo. I wonder if there's, like, a demo that's going to release alongside of it. I don't know if there is, but I wonder. And even if I did know, I would just say it, because this would be past embargo. So, yeah, I wonder, because I definitely play the demo for that, and definitely play that come April 24th. What are some turn-based games you've enjoyed? I'm ideally looking for games in the last 10 years other than Octopath Travelers 1 and 2. You know, there's actually quite a few. Where to begin is the real question, because there's some indie ones that a lot of people really like Chained Echoes. I'm not huge on Chained Echoes. In my opinion, it started off okay, but there's like a certain game mechanic that pretty greatly alters what you're actually playing and like how the game functions whenever you're engaging with that particular mechanic. Still turn-based gameplay, even during that thing, but that really didn't work for me. Chris Tales was okay. Wasn't wild about it. Didn't finish it. Mostly because the video settings just kind of upset me. It was like bare minimum video settings. So it was like, I had a really hard time getting it the way I wanted to. Fae Tactics. If you're looking for a really tough tactics game, dude, Fae Tactics was monstrously difficult. So if you're looking for something like that, you know, go nuts. There's Iodine Chronicle, 100 Heroes. What's another? I'm just looking through my list. I'm trying to think of ones that have come out in the last 10 years. And I might not even have them all here. Oh, Romancy Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. Loved it. Came out near the end of last year. I thought it was fantastic. It really caught me off guard. I was surprised at how much I actually really enjoyed that game. So that one's up there. Lost Sphere, if you're looking for something Chrono Trigger-esque, that's from the company that made I Am Setsuna, which is okay. I think Lost Sphere is better than I Am Setsuna in a lot of ways, and it's very Chrono Trigger-esque. So that definitely gets its own set of points. I just noticed I have Moonlighter here. I backed Moonlighter, and I have not paid attention at all to Moonlighter 2. Not a turn-based game, but I just, as I was scrolling through my games, I just remembered that one. Pillars of Eternity. I mean, yeah, if you really want like a slower one. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is a turn-based RPG. It's more like it's more D&D-esque, but dude, I mean, you cannot go wrong. We're talking about if you want the best value to dollar turn-based experience, you really can't go wrong with Baldur's Gate 3. Like, it is everything you've heard. If you're looking for something more condensed, Ruined King, a League of Legends story, I can highly recommend, which also I can recommend Battle Chasers, which is made by the same developers. So both of those really solid and not too long turn-based RPGs. There's one more that I'm forgetting. Sea of Stars. And Sea of Stars has a DLC coming out, I believe, sometime soon. So yeah, definitely that. I really like Sea of Stars. Has like a good mix of like Chrono Trigger and like Super Mario RPG Remake, if you haven't played that. Another great one. World of Final Fantasy was really good as well. I'm sure I haven't gone through all of the turn-based RPGs I've played in the last decade. I've definitely played more than that. But those are a few good ones, just like quickly glancing through the stuff that I own. So yeah, that should give you some good places to start. And of course, I'm sure the comment section will probably chip in for more recommendations. The Trails series, stuff like that, I'm assuming will pop up down there as well. Right before this, there was a hashtag that says, "How dare you say that about turkey?" I'm taking my hello back. Listen, I'm not saying you can't make a turkey taste good. I'm just saying whatever you're doing to make a turkey taste good, every other food and every other meat practically would just be better. Fry a turkey? Cool. Fry a chicken. It's going to be better than the fried turkey. But the fried turkey feeds more people. So that's what I mean. Turkey's for feeding more people, but everything else tastes better than turkey. That's all I'm saying. Hashtag Sundays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. Been enjoying the weekly uploads of the 11/20/25 Let's Play. I'm glad. I already have this week's one ready to go. I need to record a couple more this week. I really got to record like a month of them like all at once, and like every week record like a month of them. Just like get them out of the way. Just get them done ahead of time. Way ahead of time, especially with some 14 stuff coming up. Do you have a particular objective you want to accomplish before wrapping up the series? A particular quest mission to complete? See how far you can get before 2026. If one plays 1.5 to 2 hours a week, what would be a reasonable milestone in the game to achieve within a year? That's kind of what we're doing. I'm playing a very conservative amount. So I'm probably playing about 2 hours a week. And while the video series only comes out every week, I've only put out 6 parts. And if you told someone back in the day that I made that much progress in effectively 6 hours, probably closer to 7 because I know they go over an hour, it would be pretty shocking to a lot of people. And so that's kind of the idea. It's giving people who want to try it in the modern day kind of like a visual walkthrough alongside of the guides that already exist. So they have some sort of representation of what their game experience will actually look like versus just what the text of like the guides say that it will. On top of that, because more than often nowadays you're playing solo, you're playing with trusts, people can practically play along with the series. And obviously, the later they get into the series and the later that they start playing 11 as a consequence of the series, the more they have to go along with. So it kind of functions in that vein of like the classic 11 experience, where it is a little bit more like, you know, multiple the idea of like kind of coalescing and working together is kind of there a little bit more when you kind of run them both simultaneously. But the idea is to give the people what they ask for. People have said, when are you going to play Final Fantasy 11? Effectively, I'm eliminating that. I have a video I can release every Wednesday. And I'm trying to come up with more ideas for videos I can release every X number of days, because it gives me a lot of leeway when I'm waiting for stuff between Final Fantasy 14 patches. Working into my schedule has been tough only because I've had some things going on behind the scenes that I've been desperately trying to wrap up because they've been heavily affecting me. In terms of my like mental ability to sit down and like prolonged record stuff to get done for like weeks and weeks on end, and to edit, like to make the Versus series and stuff. Like more often I want to do things like with the Clair Obscure video and that, just like really long form informational videos as opposed to short form edited videos, just because it's just way easier on my mental right now, which, while I'm definitely not going to say it's in the worst spot, it's at like, it's at a point where until I have the thing I'm dealing with like completely done and settled in the back, I will not rest easy, because when that thing is done, I will rest easier than I ever have. It's nothing. It's again, I think I've mentioned in previous weeks, it's nothing medical. It's nothing like life threatening or dangerous. So nothing like that, but it's aggravating me to no end, and it needs to be taken care of. And I need to wait for things to happen. I need to wait for news to come in. And until it does, it just eats up that space in my head that I would normally be using for something creative, which fortunately I can kind of take out by going to the gym. So there's no particular goal. Effectively, I'm giving people someone to almost play alongside if they decide to play it, or if they just don't decide to play it and they want to see the game through. Hashtag fun days with Mr. Slappy. Dude, so funny thing, when I was in high school, I got in a lot of fights because I was just, you know, angry teenager. And I often would slap people because I didn't want to hurt them too bad by punching them. I unironically remember slapping people, and they would get angry. Have you seen the new Roadhouse, the one with Jake Gyllenhaal? The scene where he fucking slaps the dudes instead of punch, like, oh, I just slapped. Dude, it's kind of like that, but not nearly as impressive as that. And then he immediately goes and hospitalizes like 4 out of 5 of them. So, you know, changes on his head a little bit. So I'm glad to hear you're planning on playing Monster Hunter Wilds. Yeah, I've been playing the last like 4 days. I started playing at 3 a.m. on Thursday, New Zealand time. Just curious to hear your thoughts on the game so far, especially how you feel about the seamless open world. It's not seamless. It really isn't. Like, I understand that the camps go to the open area, but there's like 5 different camps. And every mission, it's way easier to just set up a mission and then go on the mission, and then it has a load screen anyway. The seamless open world thing is complete nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Least favorite things about 14 is how the world is divided. I mean, Monster Hunter is divided into small zones. It is. It's not a seamless open world. And I never got the impression that it was with the biomes or anything. I never once had the impression it was seamless. All it is that the hub is not separated from the worlds, but there's 5 hubs and 5 what are they called? Landscapes, biomes. There you go, biomes. I actually just tweeted about Monster Hunter Wilds. I'll read you the exact tweet. Wilds has been a good deal of fun, but I can't help but feel like something is missing while I'm playing it. The split of offensive and defensive traits felt like I had less good gearing options. The monster pool is kind of small, and part acquisition is so fast, I'm basically already geared. Honestly, armor spheres somehow became the longest grind in the game. Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. It's fun, it's Monster Hunter, but it feels incomplete. And I think some of that's the monster pool. I think some of that is now I've played 2 Monster Hunter games post end game effectively being added. So when they release a new one and the end game is kind of that base end game that's half cocked, like it was in World and in Rise. It's not like those games didn't do that too. 3 games of that in a row starts to kind of have some wear and tear. And the fact that this is, I think, the smallest base game monster pool that we've had in recent years. And not to mention that, honestly, there's just too much overlap. There's like 2 spiders. There's like 3 or 4 bugs in general, 2 of which are spiders. There's 2 monkeys. And those 2 monkeys I end up fighting a lot. And then there's, the rest of the stuff is fine, but it's like I don't know, it feels like there's too much like stuff I've done before. And I'm just playing it again. And I know that's Monster Hunter in a nutshell, but for some reason, it's just not hitting quite right. Probably going to get back to my Final Fantasy Platinum sometime this week, because I literally have a full set of gear. I literally just need, like, some decos, and I have my full hammer set. Like, I could go play something else, but it's like, or I could go play, like, a different weapon, but it's not going to change much of anything. I'll just get those parts again and be done, because I got those parts the first time so quickly. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just need to wait for some free updates, maybe the DLC, something. Just doesn't feel all the way done. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello and hi. 2 greetings. Oh, look, 2 greetings today for 2 questions. I like the way you think. So my group's doing your low item level stuff, and we're on P3S right now. Which would be better for helping do enough damage during ad phase, warrior or pal? I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at tank numbers in ages. Especially, I mean, regardless of doing low item level, I don't know. Like, I don't play tanks. So even if I looked at FF logs, I couldn't explain to you why. Like, in my head, it's warrior, because warrior just has all the crits. So when you really need to burst them down, that's usually the way to go. But paladin's consistent DPS is, and has been on average, higher. So does that end up making it better in that phase? Especially the ability to cast on them while they're doing the dashes between each other, the Benus. Like, that has a lot of value in itself, but if you're a warrior, you can practically kill one of the ads before it even begins the dash. And if you can do that, that's so insanely useful. I would say don't worry about it. Just pick one and then play to whatever you, like, need to play as. Can't remember the second question. That's really unfortunate, but you have a good day as well. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Haps. Hi. Hope you're doing fine. Overall, minus the things I'm dealing with behind the scenes. Listen, it could be worse. All right, like I said, it's nothing life-threatening. Question would be this: I'm planning on doing hardcore week 1 prog with static for the first time at 7.2. The in-game prep is going pretty well, but I was wondering if you had any tips for preparations outside of the game. Honestly, just be healthy. Just don't slam a billion energy drinks and like eat nothing but beef jerky and Reese's cups. Like, just be, like, it's literally just be healthy. Like, yeah, meal preparations, any food. I would avoid pastas. I would avoid any sort of heavy carb, any food that you know that if you eat it, it will make you sleepy. You do not want to be sleepy. You want stuff that is energizing. So lots of, generally fruits are not very heavy. Get a little bit of a sugar high. As long as you're not someone who gets crashes from that, it should be fine. But like, when I think of like pastas and turkey, when I think of those foods that you generally associate with the itis, you stay away from those. That's like the number one thing. And having like healthier snacks around is definitely better. Point number 2 is about strain and long play sessions with your hands. See, I'm lucky. I don't have that. I've never once had like strain. The only thing that strains my hands is like playing like theater rhythm, like rhythm games that are played with like a controller. That's like the only thing that's ever stressed me. And that's just because it's so many twitch movements for every single thing. Are there hand exercise stressing? No, I mean, I just do this occasionally. Like, I do this all the time. I think that's just the mild autism that I have. Like, I just like feel the need to like do like hand stretches. Maybe that's just worked in my favor my entire life, but that's it. I literally just twist the wrists, just go back and forth and just make sure they stretch out. And that's it for me. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope you have a wonderful week. It's starting with Clay Obscure, so it's going to be a good one. Currently, we have 3 ways of gaining 730 gear, so I wonder if you can expect the same for the next tier. Where do you think the 3rd way of gaining 760 gear is going to be? So this is a bit of a question mark, because I do think we're going to have quite a bit of gear acquisition, more gear acquisition in 7.2 to 7.38 than we did in 7.0 to 7.18. And Chaotic was a big surprise. I don't think we'll have another Chaotic before the next one. I do think we'll have our next Ultimate in 0.3 and not in 0.5 like some people are hoping, but either could be right. So, that's reserve your judgment. But we will have an exploration zone, and we will most likely have a deep dungeon and a second exploration zone or a second content related to the Crescent Island, or Occult Crescent, as we call it. There's also the unknown of Criterion, which we know they wanted to rework the gear structure on. So the very first Crescent, Occult Crescent, will not have 760. The second one in 0.3x very probably will. It might be 55. It's probably still going to be better than the 24 man, but it might not be 760, 755 or 760. If we were to get another chaotic, I'd say every time we get chaotic is almost certainly going to be the same, but I just don't expect another one in the 0.3x series. The new ultimate would have weapons. And then Deep Dungeon is not normally capped gear, so I wouldn't expect it from there. But let me just say this. Regardless, I support the sentiment that making more of the max item level gear available is fine. While players don't need it if they're not actually doing the hard content, you generally want a string of smaller upgrades being given to players that don't usually engage with endgame, just because it helps them feel like they're making progress, even if they're not someone who's like going ham and like, you know, oh, I'm clearing weekly and stuff, but they might still be logging in daily and doing roulettes, and they might be willing to log in and spend an hour in an exploration zone, or, you know, do the new deep dungeon. Like those types of content, I don't feel like we really need to gate the idea of item level in patches. Like once we're honestly like 8 to 10 weeks out of the Savage tier, I just don't think it matters anymore. Like, I think everyone who wanted to do it had their time, had their fun, and even they don't care. They want to gear more jobs, if anything, right? Like, they probably are hoping that more than hoping not for that. So that's the big thing, is regardless of what they do with the actual reward structure for the stuff that we know we're getting, and maybe for the stuff that we don't know if we're getting or not, like Criterion, in this patch cycle, they could save it for the 0.4x cycle. I think they just need to go ham with rewards and just not be afraid to get that item level bumped up in a variety of activities that players may or may not want to do. That way they have a little bit more of a choice. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. What it do, brother? What it do? I have a couple of questions about 14 socials. Interesting. I don't know that I have much insight into this. Backstory, I started in a Realm Reborn and joined it. Oh, you mean like just socializing? I thought you meant like 14, like Twitter and Facebook. All right. Had lots of in-game chat, people helping each other with crafts, mount farming, roulettes, and raids. Just coming back after a 4-year hiatus and have switched servers to FanFreed. By crazier, is the game less socially active than it used to be? I would say that's accurate. I'd say most people who want to be socially active in-game itself, like in FCs, in chat, they often just go to cities where it's really busy and just engage in like general discussion there. Or they're going to like venues and stuff, like socializing venues. Like a lot of it's moved towards that. Everyone else, I think, has largely moved to Discord. Like I think people have just moved to more openly having their discussions off game than in game. I'm not saying that's everyone. I'm sure there are absolutely communities that spend a lot of time talking in game. But given the number of resources people constantly refer to in Discord, their socialization moving there too just makes a lot of sense. And keep in mind, I'm speaking anecdotally. I honestly don't socialize a lot in game. I've always been very self-conscious about socializing in game. I don't even like really being pointed at or like talking in shout chat, because I do really just want to play the game with everyone else. And I don't want to be I want to blend in. Basically, there are times I've considered changing my character name so that it's less obvious it's me for people, because like my character name and my username are like the same thing right now. I've done that. So like I might be the wrong person to ask, because I generally avoid talking in game for a lot of those reasons. Data Center World FC recommendations? No, I don't. I just don't, because I just don't do it like that. Especially because I'm always talking to my chat. When I'm on 14, I'm usually streaming, which means I'm almost always talking to my chat instead of talking in game as well, which is, you know, nice, because again, I don't really feel as comfortable talking in game a lot of the time. So yeah, unfortunately, it's just like I kind of said leading in, this isn't my specialty. That was before I even understood what the actual question was. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey, Happy. Hi. Sorry about that rambling Guild Wars 2 non-question. I don't even remember, dude. Like, you got to remember that unless it was like something obsessively funny or sad, I generally just, my brain just resets every week. Like I only remember small details. During the pre-Dawn Trail Fan Fest, I believe there was mention of a new deep dungeon. Yes, originally they said there were plans, but they weren't 100% sure. But they've confirmed that they have already started work on the next deep dungeon. While Eureka Orthos launched pretty late, do you think if Dawn Trail showed up earlier, it would be something that captured attention? So the deep dungeon is not the thing I would move that much earlier. I think the earliest I would move the deep dungeon is 0.25. I probably wouldn't move it to 0.15, only because I think I would move other content Like, if I had to choose one, it just wouldn't be my choice. It would be exploration zones or cosmic. It would be those really widespread, generally accessible features for all facets of the game. Whereas Deep Dungeon really, at this point, by the time you can even do a Deep Dungeon like past Palace of the Dead, you've kind of already decided whether or not you like it through Palace of the Dead. Getting to 50 and getting that initial clear to actually let you unlock the next one. So, because of that, I feel like it's like a content where it's gated behind... it's gated behind something that people honestly don't like doing. 1 to 50 Palace of the Dead is terrible. But 2, the player already has an idea of whether or not they even want to do another Deep Dungeon. And the answer could be yes, could be no. So it kind of already reduces the intrigue that I feel like the average person has, since it's already kind of like filtered out people who don't want to do Deep Dungeons in general. But 0.25, I mean, I'm all for releasing more contents earlier. I mean, I've been advocating for it for a while now, but this just wouldn't be one that I would personally advocate for. I feel like 0.2x. Honestly, Eureka Orthos did pretty well in terms of generating interest. The problem is that the scaling, the way the monsters were done, made it a lot less captivating for people to A, do the solos, and B, to kind of do it that much at all. Because like the average enemy's HP bars were way too high. So it was really boring it was more boring than doing like Heaven on High, for example, for the first 30 floors. And then it becomes effectively, nothing can really hurt you, but anything that would hit you that you need to avoid will instantly kill you. Whereas in other Deep Dungeons, it's more like gauging threats and like watching rooms. There's a lot more. And then there's some that are just like the monkeys in the later floors, which are like really, really, they're more tedious than even the monkeys from the, from like Palace of the Dead, which can really screw with you too. If you get caught between like 2 rooms full of monkeys and there's nothing to hide behind because it's the final bunch of floors that just don't have walls at all. Like there's a lot more things that make the other ones fun and identifiable. The best thing about Orthos, I think, is that floor 99 is a boss. Another thing about Orthos, those I almost said tempered monsters because I'm playing Monster Hunter. Those like mini boss monsters, I don't think anyone likes those. Like, even if you're like gauging, if you like have the stuff to solo one, I don't think anyone cares. Like, unless it's like the last 10 floors and you're just being flooded with the free kill items and you're just like, yeah, sure, why not? Let me get the buffs before the final boss. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot of things didn't work with Orthos, and I think that was the bigger thing working against it, and not its release window. But an earlier release window with some better ideas would definitely work better, I think. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. What are your number one favorite and least favorite aspects of the MMO genre? My number one favorite aspect of the MMO genre is the first M part, massive. I guess technically the MMO part of MMO, massively multiplayer online. When you're getting into a new MMO or your first MMO, there's a genuine sense of wonder. Every time a new player walks by, anytime you like get to see a new area, you hear a new musical theme, anything like that, I wax poetic about that kind of stuff, because there is something just that it's just a very different feeling than when you get to like a new area in like a single player game. Like, you can have a lot of the similar marvels and wonders, but when you see the busy work of like people like trying to complete objectives and stuff, even if you're all kind of leading your own separate lives and your own separate decisions and your separate paths, and maybe at some point you have to compete for monster spawns, or maybe you group up with one other person because you're both going for the same thing and it's shared credit. Like, there's all those like little tiny moments that really fill up an MMO. And I know some of you might go, well, then what about 14? 14 has that on expansion launch, and I do think that always wanes regardless in any MMO. Like, even in Final Fantasy 11, like, I don't wax poetic about revisiting and walking through Romave for the 8 billionth time to get to Sky. Like, no, I don't care about that. But the first time I went to Romave was something very special, and I would see other players walking around, maybe somebody else like aggroing something, and maybe somebody dying, or maybe an EXP party going to camp, or somebody camping with the NM that was there. All those little things, like seeing everyone else kind of just living their own lives, For me, that's the big thing. That's the thing that I wax poetic about. Even if you're all like soloing and off doing your own thing, for me, that goes a long way. My least favorite aspect, I don't really think I have a least favorite. I think I have things that I'm less inclined to play an MMO for. Like housing. Like the WoW housing thing is really impressive, and I want to see them pull it off, but it would never make me want to play WoW. Like, WoW's content needs to make me want to play WoW, and WoW's content does the opposite of make me want to play WoW. It really makes me not want to play WoW. When I look at, like, their content releases, like, I'm looking at the Undermine now, and I'm like, that's cool if I'm already playing WoW. But I would not want to play WoW to experience Undermine, because I know that at the end of it, it's WoW. Like, it's just going to be the same WoW content again, but, you know, dressed up differently. And that's fine if you already like it. Like with me with 14, I mean, that's literally how MMOs function in a sense, where the idea is take what you're already doing, do something a little different, and then, you know, just dress it up. Just, it's the same, but it's dressed up a little bit different, you know? 11 did that a ton, 14 does it a ton, and WoW does it a ton. They all have to do it because, you know, they're not magical and they're not going to create entirely new things all the time. But that means that if you already know you don't like something, it's really hard to start caring. And between the way that, like, fight balances, as somebody who only ever wants to do the highest difficulty stuff in any game, I couldn't play WoW under the prospect of doing anything but hardcore prog mythic, like 20-man raiding. That's it. And I don't want to do fucking splits for 3 days. I don't want to do, like when I see like a top guild go out and say, hey, you know, we're looking for people to help with splits. You know, here's 100 million gold for this. And I'm just like, I don't even want to be a part of that. Like in terms of like actually playing it, I don't even want to be a part of that. And Mythic plus Dungeons, that's not going to keep me playing a game. The PvP is not going to keep me playing. Like, whenever I did PvP in WoW, whether I did Arenas or I did Battlegrounds, back when I did play, it was always like, I don't really have anything else to do. So let me do it, right? Let me see if any of my buds want to do some 2s or some 3s. I did some 5s. Maybe we just do some pre-made Alterac Valley, you know. Like, those are the things I have good memories of. You know, let's do some Arathi Basin or some Moorsong. But whatever, you know, that's it. But like, I would never play it just for that also. So it's tough. It's tough. I really do wax poetic about the new experience with a lot of MMOs because it just feels special. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Haps. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Came back to 14 a little over a year ago. Why did that just move? I literally didn't even have my hands on anything. Came back to 14 a little over a year ago and now took a long break since after the MSQ of Stormblood. Missed out on exploration zones during the initial release. Just hit Elemental level 16 Eureka. About to grind and clear BA. And boy, oh boy, the content's absolutely great. As an OG 11 player, this is my favorite content in the game. Got O-Hat, Score Partners, Glam on my Warrior. Love it. That said, I'm sure you've answered this, but what do you hope for Crescent Island? How do you hope the structure, flow, relic grind overall will feel? I only started map 1 top part of Bozia, and I don't have much experience there yet. The idea is to create a content island. You know, I know it's called Crescent Island, but Eureka, Bozia, Occult Crescent, exploration content as a whole is content known as a content island, in that basically you are re-progressing a brand new type of mechanic that is only relevant inside of that mechanic. Now, I think content islands have pros and cons. Some games do them really well. I think 14 is actually a game that does content islands fairly well because the rest of their progression systems are so simple that when you now have to just do one that's just for a specific zone, it kind of just like fits in, right? Because there's just not a whole lot of layers underneath it. Then I think of a game like Warframe, where, you know, you get to endgame and like you've got Fortuna and Plains of Eidolon, and you've got like all of these different things, and they're all content islands. They all have their like own individual progressions. To me, Warframe is a game that is kind of just overwhelming in terms of the number of progression paths you can choose to take. And it's because there's so many things layered on top of each other, which is not too surprising for a free-to-play game. And keep in mind, I think Warframe's awesome. I just can't, like, get in touch with it once I get to a certain point. It feels like everything is, like, needed, but nothing is needed. But, like, I should do all of it, but none of it matters. I don't know how else to describe it. So, and then I just ended up farming parts and like MR for ages. So, you know, there's that as well. So I really just want a cohesive, linear experience through the zone, finding out new details, exploring spawn conditions, getting to experience a bunch of new bosses for the first time, helping people with challenges on stuff. I effectively just want to be able to go around and do everything moderately comfortably after I've done it once uncomfortably, and grind out a bunch of weapons that look really cool, hopefully, and be able to have that experience with other players in my community. That's a huge thing as well. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey, Haps. Hi. First time, long time. I don't know why I started reading that. I was just like, my brain broke. When do you think Yoshi P will press the 7 emergency button? I imagine they'll release a 7 themed expansion after having 2 poorly received expansions. Endwalker was not poorly received. Endwalker's endgame post Endwalker's release was poorly received. And that's largely because Island Sanctuary fell really, really flat. There were other problems. The Abyssos, I think endgame players were burnt. I think DSR into Abyssos into top, especially top, was absolutely brutal. Not to mention Criterions and a deep dungeon in between. I already mentioned earlier, I think the deep dungeon had some ideas that didn't land. I don't think Island Sanctuary landed at all. There was an entire exploration zone missing. But Endwalker on release was pretty well received. It was a standard MMO expansion launch. Some people liked the ending, some people didn't. I don't think it was as well received as Shadowbringers, but Shadowbringers had its own issues because it had patches that were massively delayed because of you know what. Dawn Trail, on the other hand, I would say had a not well initial reception and is looking to kind of make it up on the back end, which is, as I've noted very many times, unfortunately how most Final Fantasy XIV expansions go. People like to talk about like, oh, Heavensward was the greatest expansions. Heavensward released with a good story. It was otherwise a fucking awful expansion. I still think to this day, Heavensward is the worst expansion Final Fantasy XIV has ever had. On any note, except the story, which was the highlight of Heavensward. It's emotional, it's well written, there's a sense of desperation. That part's really good. But the expansion, the actual like entire structure of the expansion was one giant fucking apology the entire time. Like, no, we swear we're fixing it. Like, it was nonstop, like longer patch cycles that were taking longer to deliver with underwhelming content, like more underwhelming than Dawn Trail. It's crazy to think, but until like 0.3, 0.4, Heavensward barely existed as an expansion, and even then it barely existed. Like 0.4 was when Heavensward began, and that sucks. So we'll see how 0.2x goes. A lot is riding, but I really do think they need to just get content to earlier in the. I'm just gonna keep saying it. Just gonna keep saying it earlier in the expansion. Just stuff needs to happen quicker. Hashtag Mr. Also, previous question. We have an entire weapon series. That button's already been pushed. We have the cloud hairstyle. We got that stuff already. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, howdy ho, Haps. Hope you're doing well. There's other references as well. We have the guard scorpion. Anyway, so me and a few friends all believe an 8.x will be going to Meracydia. Not asking for speculation, don't worry, but do we know much about Meracydia? We know a little bit about Meracydia, but very, very little. I mean, that's kind of Emmett's entire thing, is that, do you even know what's happening in Meracydia? Like, no, effectively we have a few NPC dialogues between the dragons and a handful of other ones, and we have Encyclopedia Eorzea, which has a detailed history. Like, we know about the Allagans going to Meracydia, we know about Bahamut and Tiamat, we know about, what's it called? We know about the Warring Triad, we know about a bunch of stuff the Allagans brought back and experimented on. Like, a lot of the stuff we know about Meracydia is through the Allagans. But in general, we don't really know a whole lot, and you even note those things there. Also, I don't remember. I think this might have been debunked, but it was also rumored that the Mikote walked up to Meracydia after the Calamity of Ice because of, I think that... I'm trying to remember. I think that was the case. I think Meracydia was also at some point considered or it was thought to be the origin, but for some reason I'm remembering that was debunked. So maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, no, the lore books have everything we know about Meracydia. So I would read through Encyclopedia Eorzea, especially Volume 1, which does have a lot there. Hashtag Mr. Mondays with Mrhappy. Hi, Happy, and hola aloha. Aloha is not around anymore. This is Ivy. Fitness question, since I know people love them. What do you eat when you're on a cut? I'm on a cut right now, dude. It's brutal. Trying to slim down and get more ideas that aren't just lean beef, taco bowls, and chicken and broccoli. Any favorites that you've done? So a cut is all about less calories in. That's really it. Like, yeah, obviously you don't eat junk, but like, I sometimes just throw like full fat cheese on like random things just to like get flavor and calories in, even though I'm on a cut. And honestly, I eat a lot more fruits because you can eat a lot of them. They're sweet. So I have blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. Sometimes I even buy grape tomatoes, and I don't even like put them into salads and stuff. I just like, I'm a snacker. I need to like graze throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? I obviously have a protein powder, so there's that. And I'll buy like not even lean beef. Like I just have to know how much food I'm putting in my body and be able to be like, space it out throughout the day and stop. But I don't really have a limitation. I just have to eat less is all, and keep my like total fat intake around like a point that I want to, which for me is about 43 to 48 grams of fat per day. That's like about what I aim for. And like, but I mean, I do egg whites, but I also do whole eggs. You know, I make rice pretty often because I love rice, but I'll even just mix soy sauce in with it to get some sodium in because it gives me a good pump at the gym. I'll eat all sorts of vegetables. I'll eat. That's the thing. I'm a human vacuum cleaner. I eat. There's nothing I won't eat. And like, I'll eat chicken thighs. I don't need to eat chicken breast. I just have to know how much like I'm putting in my body, you know? And that's really all it is. Still eat things you enjoy. Just be willing to do so within effectively a caloric budget. And realistically, you can eat whatever you want. Just don't eat a bunch of processed junk and you'll probably be fine. All right, there was a massive like response to my healer answer from last week. I read it, but it's not a question. So I gotta cut it out. I'm just acknowledging to you that I read it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, hi, good morning, good evening, good night. Good night. Anyway, I keep forgetting to ask since we saw the cloning pod since I was getting this in early. Do you think a group of 8 to 10 clones of you attempt and clear day 1 raids? No, because that would assume I'm as good at tanking and healing as I am at everything else. I'm passable at those things. Maybe they won't screw up mechanics, but they probably just won't be as good enough players to just take 8 of me. I don't think that works. I mean, if 4 of them go through a training arc to play the roles I've literally never progression rated on, yeah, maybe if they are separately away from me, willing to go through a training arc. But other than that, hell no. I don't think that's gonna be the case. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hey ho, happy. Hey. Sheesh, that guy. Well worded on that note, but how do you like your grills? Any barbecue you fancy? I haven't had a grill in ages because I live in San Francisco. They're not gonna let me get I need a gas grill. I gotta get an electric grill. I need a gas grill. Can't have a gas grill, so I can't have it. So, I hate it. Secondly, I thought they did say Cosmic and Crescent are in 7.2. No, they're in 7.2x. They did not say Cosmic was in 0.2x, though. They said Cosmic was in 0.2, and they said Crescent was 0.2x. But they may have just been, speaking fast, and that wasn't, the whole information. So they're in the series of 7.2x, but they are not both right at 7.2 launch. Hashtag Monday with Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope everything is going well for you. 2 questions. Cool. First, a tanked EX3 recently. I found the boss would use auto attack at a very specific point. Should I treat it as a mini tank buster and plan for mitigation? So this largely depends on what the auto attack is doing. There are some bosses where the auto attack is a mechanic and should be mitigated. P8S is a great example of that because that is a shared auto attack, and that auto attack still hits hard. Still hits quite hard. People also use invulns around the idea of taking the buster and eating the shared auto, because shared auto is like an instant death on P8S if you don't split it with some other person, unless you have a tank invuln up. But less nowadays. Realistically, treat them less like tank busters. Treat them more like accessories to tank damage. So when you use a cooldown, you can know exactly how many auto attacks will happen after or before the attack that you're intending to mitigate. So you can be like, oh, if I use this here, it'll get the buster plus 2 autos. Instead of just using it at such a time where maybe it gets the buster and an auto afterwards, but Maybe it doesn't, or maybe you get an auto before the buster and then an auto after. Like, it depends on the fight, and tanks know a lot more about this, about which fights have specific things. But I don't think I don't think EX3 has an auto that needs to be treated like a buster, and nor should you be expending mitigation strictly on those autos. There are some bosses where you actually want some mitigation for autos. Great example is anytime the healers have to do a movement heavy mechanic and you as the tank are still taking auto attacks, there are lots of situations where that occurs. Golden Bahamut is a really good example in UCOB during Exaflares, where the healers are really trying to make sure that nothing happens to them, like they actually do the mechanic correctly, and the tank needs to stay alive from the autos there. So it's more like just be aware of that. If you've ever died to an auto on a boss after a buster, like because your healers were just snoozing, that's a time to consider, like, maybe I need to like put something extra there because the autos afterwards, or maybe I like spend something big here, but it wears off more quickly. So I expend a 20% like near the end of it to catch the autos. Like, consider those kind of things after the fact. But you shouldn't be treating them like busters. You just treat them as accessories to the busters. And second question, if I watch the ads in your video all the way to the end, does that give you more revenue? So the YouTube ads, yes. Obviously the Magic Spoon ads, no, because they're integrated. They're meant to like engage somebody. So if somebody clicks on it, buy something with it, that's what they're meant for. Ads, it largely depends. The region the person is in depends on the ads. The demographic will usually, somewhat alter what ads you can get. On top of that, yes, watching the ad, watching it with audio on to boot helps. Obviously, clicking on the ad works as well. There's a lot of different factors that they look into, and they use those factors to then determine what ads will play on a channel. And that can have an impact on it. But that needs to happen on such a widespread scale that I always just tell people not to worry about that. Like, yes, you can do little things for your favorite creator to help, and they're not going to say no, and they're not going to dissuade it. But I also don't think anyone is going to tell you, especially with like random ads on a platform that you just watch videos on. I think we all know that you just want to enjoy videos. So it's like, while we would, at the best, we would encourage not to use ad blocker. Nobody's going to like, yeah, make sure you watch all the ads all the way through and click them and engage with them. No, they just like want you to just watch the video, enjoy it, and the ads will come, basically. Hashtag Mondays, Mr. Happy Mondays. I saw MHM and my brain just didn't want to say it correctly. Hey there. Hi. Hope it's going good. It's all right. CPAP question. I haven't used my CPAP in a while. Well, since I lost weight, I don't need my CPAP really much anymore. Because for me not knowing much about them, feel free to skip it if it's too personal. Now that I've gotten a lot farther in your fitness journey, do you still... Oh, hey, that was the question. No, I don't need my CPAP at all. I'm sure I still snore, but I have taken a sleep test, and I don't have sleep apnea anymore. I am a snorer still, to a lesser degree. The girl I was seeing for a while, when she would stay over, I asked her, I was like, did I snore really badly last night? And she said, you didn't snore at all last night. And I'm like, was I at least breathing through my mouth? She's like, I don't know. I slept through whatever you did. I was like, I don't know what your input is. But that's my firsthand account of that. I don't need the CPAP because it was really to help with the snoring because of the sleep. The sleep apnea and the snoring were like one and the same. Now I have, I guess, light snoring, or at least not enough to wake people. And I no longer, according to my sleep analysis, have sleep apnea. So it was 100% weight correlated, my sleep apnea. I am willing to bet, though, on a separate note, I generally have breathing through the nose issues. So I still end up kind of breathing through my mouth when I sleep. And that's fine as long as my sleep is not impinged in any way. But I am willing to bet that if I got some work done to my nose, what is it called? Where the deviated septum. I'm willing to bet I have a deviated septum. Like, I sometimes just look at my nostrils like that, and I'm like, oh, it looks like one's thinner than the other. I bet it's off. I would have to get it checked out. But like, that's one thing, dude. I bet everyone I know who has gotten surgery to help fix a deviated septum has said it has been life-changing for them. They're like, oh yeah, the recovery kind of sucks, but once you're recovered, they're like, you didn't understand breathing was supposed to be easier than you thought it was. And so that's the one thing I'm looking at still, because I know I still breathe through my mouth when I sleep, which is why I actually needed the full mask CPAP as well. Which, by the way, the full mask CPAP, if you are like a mouth breather at night like me, holy moly, get ready for some dry mouth. even with the vapors in the mask, I still had very dry mouth with that. But my sleep was way improved. So but I would say they were correlated. And I do not need one anymore. All right, I stepped away to answer a phone call, and I sat back down, and that was the last question that was there. There's a few other like hashtags that are just like comments on some stuff from last week, or like comments on answers, or adding to some of the things from last week. But that was actually the last one. There's one here actually. As I'm scrolling through one last time to make sure I didn't miss anything. It's Mrhappy Natural. Yes, I'm natural. My supplements are a multivitamin, a protein powder, magnesium, and a non-stim pre-workout that I take usually 4 or 5 times a week when I go to the actual gym. I don't take it on off days, obviously. So that's all I've got. And then I think that's everything. So that is going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to ask your comments in the comment section below. Be sure to watch that Clear Obscure video. Trust me, if you're an RPG fan, you're going to want to watch it. You may not want to, actually. You may want to be like, oh, no, I can't. It's too much. If I watch it, it's going to be spoilers. Can't. Like, you might want to watch it still. Like, it's the early part of the game. So, it's good. It's good. Anyway, that's going to be a wrap. I'll see you all in the next one. And until then, take care.